Thank you for having me first off today. So it started with my own health and wellness journey. So I have a fused vertebrae in my neck, which was leading to chronic pain, being like dropping things all the time because my wrist would just give out. My whole leg was numb. Like I was in my 20s and a complete mess. I ended up finding out later on that I had dysbiosis, H. pylori, suffered from major depression. In my 20s, my health just kept deteriorating really quickly, which scared me. So I decided to take control of it. When you have a disease or when you have a symptom, look at what the symptom is trying to tell you. It's just your body saying something's off, something's not right. So pay attention to that symptom, because when we stop paying attention is when it stops manifesting to bigger diseases, right? So it's because we stop listening. So it gets deeper and bigger and bigger and bigger until it kind of triggers us to start listening. So how do we get different microbiome? Okay, so our microbiome first starts as an infant. Okay, when we go through the birth canal, we're actually introduced to the mom's flora. Now, later on through life, our microbiome changes through diet, lifestyle factors. So we've got good bacteria and we have bad bacteria. We want to make sure that we end up with more good bacteria than we actually end up with bad bacteria. So when we have more good bacteria, then we have more health. When we have more bad bacteria, we have more disease, more discomfort, and more symptoms, right? Antibiotics are killing both our good and our bad bacteria. And here's the thing. If you take an antibiotic, it actually takes 2 years. So clinical research has shown it takes 2 years for you to actually get the same strains back into your body. I say unless it's like a life or death situation, don't take antibiotics. Look at taking a probiotic. That's for the right condition instead. So the impact of diet in nutrient composition of the gut microbiome by Singh in 2017 explores how different dietary and nutrition compositions can alter the diversity and the composition of the gut microbiome. So when we're looking at diet, we're looking at things like we want non-resistant starches, we want good healthy fibers. So we're looking at good fruits, vegetables, we're looking at artichokes for your prebiotics, and we're looking at like sweet potatoes. Okay, we don't want just like plain white starches. We want those non-resistant starches. And we want good fibers like flaxseed and chia seeds, blueberries, and our pears, spinach, and all those kind of things are actually going to bring in a lot of fiber into the body as well. So like I said, our prebiotics are going to be coming from like a lot from our fibers and our non-resistant starches. And our probiotics are actually going to be coming from what's called our fermented foods. So these are the foods that are sitting over long periods of time that create a fermentation process that create the food. So when you're using a cucumber and you're letting it ferment, it becomes a pickle. Okay, so when it's done properly with the right ingredients, it's now good, a beneficial, healthy fermented food. So on the other hand, we've also got physical exercise. So we've got the physical exercise induced gut microbiome modulation, a review of evidence by Clark in 2018. So what they did find is that through regular exercise, that you can actually increase the diversity of the beneficial bacteria in the body, as well as reduce inflammation in the body, which is actually going to help these microbiome be able to thrive. Picking the right probiotic. There's a lot of different strains. So when you're looking at it, you're going to get strain, genus, your species, your subspecies, not all the time, but most of the time, and your strain designation. So when you're reading the research, it's going to look something like this. It's going to say Lactobacillus rhamnosus. So your genus is Lactobacillus. So you'll see a lot of different Lactobacillus. And then your species will be rhamnosus. This one has no subspecies, and then you'll get a designation like GG. It takes a long time to study probiotics, and the reason is because when they're studying probiotics, they're finding that one probiotic doesn't do just one thing, it does multiple things. So they have to keep studying these probiotics over a long period of time to study them for different conditions. So for example, Lactobacillus rhamnosus actually has been studied to help with food sensitivities and to decrease stress-induced anxiety. So the microbiomes, you want good balance. You want things like your fermented foods, like I said, kimchi, sauerkraut, like I said, variety of fibers, your non-resistant starches. Good physical exercise. It doesn't need to be intense. It can just be walking. Avoid the antibiotics as much as possible and just picking the right strain for the right condition.
What's the testing you do to figure out what the problem is? and then the protocol.
So we're just going to add more of an abundance of probiotics. We're going to look at reducing drinking. We're going to increase stomach acid. We're going to have to now kill off parasites because now parasites have been able to thrive. And we're going to have to go through and break it down. And then we'll just kind of go with symptoms. You can do testing, but it becomes expensive. These are the symptoms you're having. This is the lifestyle you've been choosing. Let's get rid of a few things and then come back in 6 weeks. Let's see where these symptoms have left. Our body is functioning as a whole. So disease does not happen by one marker being turned on. Disease happens by like 10 different markers being turned on. So we're not fixing one thing. We've got to fix all the 10 underlying things that are happening going on. So there's only a handful of diseases in the world that is like one genetic trait. It happens and then you get sick. Everything else is there's 7 to 10 different markers that are being turned on in the body that we actually have to try to correct.
So what happens on the first appointment with you?
We do an intensive intake on the first appointment, and then we leave you with a protocol, basically meeting you where you're at. We're not going to do a 180-degree change if you're not ready for it, right? So we're going to meet you where you're at. We're going to start to make sure that you have some subtle changes, at least. That way you keep at it, and we just kind of keep evolving as you're ready. So I've had people that have been bedridden that are for 5 years that end up walking in, a week, and because they followed the protocol, whereas I expect about 80% compliance.
All right, well, Christina, thank you very much for coming on. We'd welcome you back anytime you just want to join us.
Thanks everybody for having me, and if you guys have any questions, my email address is there. Feel free to just email me your questions and I will answer them as I have time.